Hello. I think we're on. Yeah, I think we're all good. Got another minute or so, so I'll just sit here and twiddle my thumbs for a minute. I'm going to amuse myself by trying to waggle one eyebrow without waggling the other. It's more difficult than you would expect. Oh dear. Doop 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 doop. Doop 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 doop. Reposition the camera a little bit so you can see my books in the background. Cool. Right, let's get started. It is now 5:30. Time to crack on. In today's Folky Fridays, I'm going to be attempting another fingerstyle tune arrangement against the clock. I've got an hour to do this one in. What I'm going to be doing today is a kind of slightly different one to last time. Last time I followed the sort of basic steps that I laid out in my beginner's guide to writing fingerstyle video. And in today's one, I'm going to go with a much more kind of experimental approach, going for some more jazzy harmonies. I'm going to be basically not following any of the rules that I set out before, and doing it in a much more experimental sort of way, which either will come out with a really nice, interesting arrangement at the end of the hour, or will go horribly wrong and make me look silly. So we'll see. Sometimes this approach works well, and sometimes it doesn't. What I've done is I've just picked a tune completely at random, which I happen to like. It's called Slieve Russell, and it's a jig in A Dorian. So I'll just play it quickly, just to run through the steps for people that are thinking of having a go at the fingerstyle competition. I said before, pretty much the first step that you need to do is to work out what key you're in. So we're in A Dorian, and then you need to find a nice convenient shape to play that scale. Well, I could play A Dorian down the bottom here, but I'm not going to. Instead, for a bit of a challenge for myself in a way, I'm going to try and do mostly things around the 5th fret. So I'm going to be using this shape. Like that. I'm going to be using that shape and variants thereof, and then potentially moving up and down the neck a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. Chords wise, the main chords in a tune in A Dorian are always A minor, D, that's chord 4, and E minor is chord 5. And then the other chords, with my amazing mode here. If you want an amazing mode wheel, by the way, they're very, very useful. Go on finaleguitar.co.uk/shop and you'll find the amazing mode wheel there, along with my various books. But yeah, so the other chords in A Dorian are going to be A minor, that's chord 1. Other options, B minor, C major, D major or D7, E minor, F sharp diminished, G major, and then you're back where you started on A minor. So those are the chords that we've got to play with, and it's going to be either G or E minor as the chord that comes back to chord 1 to make things sound finished. Just quickly as well, for people that missed last week's Folky Fridays, I'm running a fingerstyle writing competition. So if you'd like to win a copy of my latest book, Irish Tunes for Fingerstyle Guitar, which has got 10 fingerstyle arrangements, ranging from really easy to quite jazzy and rather difficult at the end. You'll also win a copy of Backing Guitar Techniques for Traditional Celtic Music, which has got all the stuff you need to know about music theory, strumming patterns, all that good stuff. which I wrote a couple of years ago. You'll win an amazing mode wheel, very, very useful, as I've said. And you'll win the Folk Friend Guitar Practice Diary, which basically is designed to streamline your practice and keep you motivated and focused. As well as that, you will also win 3 lessons over Skype, Zoom or WhatsApp with myself. So all you need to do to enter that competition is find the Beginner's Guide to Fingerstyle video, which I made recently, write your own fingerstyle arrangement, and then post a video of it on YouTube and leave a little link to it in the comments of that video, and then I will enter you in the competition. We've already had 2 entries. Thank you very much to Jordan and Matt for their excellent entries, which I really enjoyed listening to. Both really great in different ways. So yeah, thank you very much for those, and keep them coming in. It's been really nice to see them. Anyway, so within this shape up here, the A Dorian shape, which I'm going to play starting from the 5th fret, I can play the tune something like this. Something like that. The reason I've elected to play it up here is because with a nice little mini bar there, you've got an A minor 7 chord, and it leaves you 3 fingers spare to fret tune notes, an A open root note down the bottom there. So this is my A minor 7 chord, nice and jazzy. With very minor modification, I can add these fingers and use my bottom E string, and I've got a nice jazzy E minor 7 chord. Actually, it's an E minor 7 chord with an A in it, so it's a kind of E minor 13, I suppose. But not really important, is it? Sorry, E minor 11 rather. But yeah, it's an E minor 7 type chord. So I've gone for these kind of more jazzy options for this week's experimental one. So let's have a little think about where the tune is going to be. My first root note is obviously going to be A. The tune actually goes like that right at the start. Hey Yvonne. But I'm going to add in a G note with the open string. Firstly because it's easy to play like that, and secondly because adding in that G is going to make my A minor chord into an A minor 7, which makes it more jazzier like. Something like that. So that's going to be my first half a bar. Then I want it to go next note's a B, so I can use the open B string. That's nice, because you get one thing that I really like is if you've got a chord with a nice solid foundation like the big low A note in this, then you can have higher notes which are adjacent to one another and deliberately clash, ringing together, and it actually sounds really nice. And that's kind of the essence of what makes Dadgad sound good a lot of the time as well, is as long as those upper notes that are adjacent to one another, as long as at least 2 of them are related to your key chord in some way, then it'll probably sound pretty nice. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Then open B string. So my underlying root notes under the tune, if I was playing along with it, would be like da 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 da, A minor, G, and then probably A minor, E minor. But what I'm going to go for is a sort of chromatic descent thing. So A minor, G, substitute for F sharp diminished, which in this case is D with a thumb, but the important bit is that you've got the F sharp at the bottom of it, so that your bass line is going like that, from the root to the 7th to the 6th and down to chord 5. So I'm going to try and get that somewhere up the top here. So there's a nice convenient F sharp there, which is next to where my hand is now, so that's quite useful. I'm just having a think about what my right hand is doing here. The reason I've chosen to jump up here is so that my right hand can do a given pattern and repeat it, because the left hand's part in this is going to be a lot more complicated than it was in the previous one. So I'm going to want to complicate the left hand and simplify the right hand, because my brain is only little. I can only think about one thing at a time. Oh yeah, Jack, no worries. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm just having a little think about what my right hand's actually doing so far. It's kind of going dung, 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 dung. I'm going to have to do it. Oh yeah, so I've got ring, index, middle, ring, index, middle. So that's quite good. So I'll try and keep that as the pattern as much as possible throughout the whole thing. I can't go ring, index, middle for this bit because the tune is jumping up and index and middle are both lower. So this is going to be tricky, but well, that's nice, easy. Da, 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 G, E, D. So just thinking, if the next part of the tune is going to be G, E, D, I've got an E string there, so now I just need to find a high D up here somewhere. There we go. Great, so we've got right. Here we go. Right, so I can add my descending bass line up the top with my thumb. So I can go A, G, F sharp, and then probably E at the end, I would have thought, or the bottom E string for the root note. So hang on, we're not using that one, are we? With things like this as well, you'll notice it takes me a little while to think which notes are in the tune and where they are on here. Much easier than that is, once you've worked that bit out, just memorise the shapes that your hands are making. Because I'm using a lot of open strings, the actual chord shapes that I'm using aren't that complicated. It starts with this one, and then we've got this one, and then it's going to be that one, and then probably something like that, although I haven't quite worked that bit out yet. but that's just a general thing. It's easier to remember chord shapes if you're a guitarist than it is to think exactly which notes are in them. Obviously it's better to know which notes you're playing, but sometimes at speed it's easier not to. So oh, that's lovely. Oh. Right, that's the last shape there. I need to remember that one because I seem to forget so far. So our bass line is actually going A, G, F sharp, F. That's a little chromatic trick which I have kind of touched upon in previous videos. It's on my list to make a more kind of complete video about how to use these kind of chromatic chords. But we're in the key of A Dorian, and A Dorian should have an F sharp diminished as the 6th chord. But if we were in A Aeolian, it would be F major as the 6th chord. I could show you on the mode wheel, but I've talked about it lots in previous videos anyway, so look them up if you don't know what I'm on about. If you have a bar in either A Dorian or A Aeolian, either of the 2 minor keys, where the 6th note is not in that bar, then you can play either 6th from either mode and it'll sound okay. If you want it to sound like a darker bar, you play the one from A Aeolian, which would be F major. If you want it to sound like a more optimistic bar, you play D with a thumb or some sort of D sharp type chord, sorry, F sharp type chord. And that'll make it sound more like it's in A Dorian, therefore more optimistic. If you are getting clever with it, you can use one and then the other for a sort of chromatic alteration. And so you could do what I'm doing here, for example, like going down A minor, G, D with a thumb, kind of F sharp, diminished substitute, F, and then you could go down one more step to E minor, your chord 5 or something like that. So that makes a really nice little chromatic thing that you can do. The same is also true for mixing the chords between the 2 major modes. Sorry, I'm beset by fruit flies today. It's a terrible situation. Yeah, you could do it between, for example, D Ionian and D Mixolydian. You could use the C major chord from D Mixolydian and then go up to A in the first inversion, a substitute for C sharp diminished. So something like, and use that as a cool little linking thing to make an Ionian tune have a little hint of Mixolydian for a second. In D major as well, you could use it the other way round, going downwards as a way to link D to B minor. So you could go D, substitute for C sharp diminished, C, and then either down to G, which is a common thing in pop songs, like in that Badly Drawn Boys song that was the theme tune to About a Boy. So something like that, or you could use it to get down to B minor, like that. So that's a cool little thing you can do. Anyway, so where were we? Brilliant. Next bit, next part of the tune goes, and because I've done this descending bass line going, I want the next part of my bass line to drop down to D minor and then come back up again. Probably like that. We'll see when we get there whether that's doable or not, but that's the kind of thing that I have in my mind. So the next part of the tune, if I drop down to, I could use the open E string. For ease of me remembering it, I prefer to use bar chords because they're much more something that I've used a lot in the past, and I know comfortably where the tune notes and the chords fit together with bar chords, so I'm probably going to go for the bar chord for this one. Ooh, nice, I can get the open B string for that one. We want a C and an E at the bottom. Ooh. Oh, that's convenient. So we got this shape and then open B string, so that's very convenient. And then I can use the two open strings there for the two tune notes. Sorry about that. My next door neighbour's ringing me. Okay. So. Oh, that's actually a better option. If I use my thumb on the D string for the D minor chord, then I can keep my picking pattern from the start by using the open E string, then this D way up here on the 7th fret of the G string, and then the open B string to get the tune notes. And then I'm going to have to use my E on the 7th for the next one. Oh, that's lush. Go. So, slight lag in the video and audio. Yes, sorry about that. It's an ongoing internet issue, I'm afraid. I've ordered a extender, so hopefully next time we'll be a bit better connected. But yeah. the problem with these more experimental ones is they take me quite a while to remember, because the ones where you're sort of working around a chord shape that you know and you're just adding extra fingers for the tune shapes, the tune notes rather, those are quite easy to memorise, whereas these ones are a bit less intuitive, and that's why I say try and keep the right hand as repetitive as you can, and then you can focus on the shapes on the left hand as a way of memorising it. Right, I'm going to go again from the beginning and see if I can get that together. I've forgotten how it started now. G. Was that one, wasn't it? I'm going to make the B part simpler. You'll notice this actually if you are one of the people that's bought my book, and thank you to everybody that has. In some of the jazzier ones, I got halfway through and I was like, this is too complicated, I'll make the B part easier for them, or vice versa. But yeah. So where were we? G. And D. And E with C somewhere. Where was that? The problem I have here is when I get to the top of this little run, I seem to run out of fingers. So there must be a way around that. How can I do that? Just have to switch fingers. Right. Brilliant. We've got the first half of an A part. How are we doing for time? Half an hour in. Okay, more or less on target. So the first bit's going to repeat then. Oh, I finally got it right that time. That's good. And then the last bit goes, so I'm going to keep my same kind of bass line as before and try and get that to run back up. So that's keeping my finger picking pattern the same, which is good. Where was I? How did I do it before? Oh, of course. Here I'm going to do a sort of classical music trick, which is instead of the chord 5 coming back to chord 1, chord 5 is normally going to be minor, chord 5 should be E minor. I'm going to make it E major or E7 to make it sound extra finished when it comes back to chord 1, A minor. That's a thing that classical music's always done, and I'm going to do it here in a folky context, just for a bit of fun really. And the way I'm going to do that then is my, instead of going to G, I'm going to go to G sharp, which is what would be the major third in an E chord. So something like that. first bit now. I'm definitely going to make the second part less technical. Oh, of course. Ah. Aha, much easier. I always forget that there are open strings. There we go. So then my chord 5 is the only time where I've used that ringing low bass note to underpin the chord 5 in a more kind of definite way. Like that. Right then. So that's the A part done. I haven't fully memorised how to play it yet, but when I write it down I'll be able to do that. So the B part, I'm going to do a similar kind of descending thing. I'm going to use a descending bass line going from A, like that, all the way down. So A to G sharp, to G, to F sharp. And then I'm going to go down to F. So that would be like the third chord in the sixth chord in A Aeolian. And then when I get there, I'm going to turn around and come back up. Something like that. That's what I'm going to aim for anyway. So, and this is all going to be done using my easy mini bar, because I can only remember the A part now, and I've only got 25 minutes left to complete this arrangement in, so we're going to have to hurry it up a bit. So, something like that. Now if you just have a think about the chords I'm playing there, that's an A minor chord, that's the oddly named A minor major 7 chord. We'll skimp over that a little bit. Basically it's an A minor chord with the major 7th added to it. Sounds very uncomfortable, but it's a cool little way to segue into A minor 7, just a little mini bar. And this chord, if you look at that, if the root note were D, then that would be my favourite chord, D9. Probably my favourite chord. And that's a very useful chord if you're in A Dorian. You've got A minor 7 like that, which is easy to play, or with an extra root note like that. And then for your chord 4 you can do D9, which is a great chord, so really useful. Anyway, so here comes the next bit. Here we need a chord 5. Haha, jazzy. Right. I don't think I am going to come back up chromatically there actually, because it sounds a bit rubbish. So instead I'm going to go down to D minor, I think. Because I've got an F there, it makes sense to drop down to D minor. I'll do it down here. So that's actually D major, isn't it? Because it's got the major third in it up there. But I'll do. So ooh, I know what I'll do there. If I use this chord like this, which is looks like a D minor shape, but I've slid it up a fret, up another fret, and down a string. And that chord is D7, except that it's not got D in the root, it's got A in the root, so it's an inverted D7. The reason I'm going to plump for that is because it sounds jazzy as, and also it's still got A in the root, so I've got this nice just A running under everything, which creates quite a cool little bit of tension. And it means that I can pull my finger off at the top and then put it back on again and it plays the tune. So nice and easy for the fingering. And then I'm going to switch down to a D minor chord because it's easier. So what that does is kind of divides the B part into two sections, one of which just has an A chord under all of it, but with this chromatic thing going on up the top. And then the other half strips back to straight chords, which actually creates a nice bit of contrast because all the rest of it's been very jazzy and chromatic-y. So yeah. Oh. Then the tune goes do 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 dum, and I want the bass line to be the same, so well, actually I'd quite like it to go F, F, E minor, A minor, like that. There we go. Right, there we go. I think that is about it. Oh, let's see if I can still actually play the first part. Yeah, I'm sorry about the internet. Like I say, I will get an extender for next time, and hopefully that'll sort it out. Seems to be an ongoing problem. There's really very little I can do about it. I've tried everything, because down the studio, the internet down there is rubbish. I run out of mobile data if I do it on my phone, and my attic here is very nice, but the internet signal doesn't seem to reach up here sufficiently for this to work properly, even though it actually says it's got full signal. But so yeah, I'll try the extender, And if that doesn't work, I may just have to start pre-recording them, which is a shame because I quite like the fact that, you know, you can see what people are saying in real time and people can ask questions and everything. But yeah, sorry about that. Right, let's see if I can actually play this. Aha, I found a solution to the running out of fingers problem, which is, as always, use the open strings. I always forget to do it. Fixed. Excellent. Still not sure about the E major. Actually, it might be too classically for a folk tune. I might get rid of that and make it E minor again. there we go, something like that. So more or less got the framework for it. I still can't fully play it, but the next step, if I was going to go forward with this, would be to write it down as a tab on. I use free software called Tux Guitar, which is really good and super easy to use. You just click where you want a note, tell it how long you want the note to be, and type the fret number, and click the right string, and then it writes it in for you. And it also lets you edit it as sheet music if you prefer to do it that way as well. So it's really handy. Tux Guitar, TUX, and their logo is a little funny penguin as well. So that's a plus. But yeah, so check that out if you're looking to write your tabs down using some free software. Just a few general takeaways from this. Sorry, today has been a protracted just watching me twiddle about with different chords and play my own arrangement wrong. But the kind of main principles are, it's nice to have chromatic bass lines. You can always use a combination of the two minor modes or a combination of the two major modes. That's a pretty fun little thing to experiment with. What else? If you're complicating your left hand, and it's going to demand a lot of thought and a lot of brain power to remember unusual shapes, rather than just using nice standard chord shapes down the bottom here like we did in the first video last week, then try and keep your right hand as repetitive as possible to make brain space for thinking about what your left hand is doing. What else? If there's an open string, try and use it as much as possible for two reasons. Number one, it saves work for your left hand. Number two, having multiple strings ringing together fills out the space and makes for some really nice, interesting overlaps between notes that you wouldn't necessarily find in other ways. Anything else to say about it? No, I think that's about it really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away and spend 20 minutes or so writing this up. And then I will put it up on a blog, and I will put that on my website, finaleguitar.co.uk. If you visit that website, click on the little tab at the top that says Learning, and then there's some topic selectors at the top of that page. And if you click the one that says Folk, it should be on there somewhere, along with all the resources from my other videos as well. Every time I make a video that needs chord diagrams or anything like that, I always stick them on there. So you'll find loads of useful folky stuff. And there's quite a few blogs that are relevant to folk music as well that are all tagged under folk on there, with things like how chord construction works, all the mode shapes, some ear training exercises, those kinds of things. There's all sorts of stuff on there, so go and check that out if you haven't seen it before. Yeah, if you want to see more of my fingerstyle arrangements, there are 10 of them in this book. It's very nice. It's got a lovely picture of a guitar on it. It's got all the chord diagrams. It's got a little bit of history about the tunes as well and the people who wrote them. Some interesting stuff about the police force of Chicago in the 1920s being overrun by Irish musicians, which I've discovered while I was writing it, which I thought was interesting, so I put that in there. But yeah, go and check that out. I'll put a link in the comments in a minute. Does anybody have any questions or suggestions for what we can do next time, assuming that my internet extender is here and that the connection's a bit better? If you've got any ideas or any questions, then just stick them in the comments now and I'll get back to you in just a second. Come on, phone, what are you doing? we go. So yeah, if you do want to check out more arrangements, that's where you'll find them. Cool. Right, I'm going to sign off and go and write this tab up then. But yeah, check back on the Finale Guitar website. There is a Folk Friend Facebook as well, which is linked in the description for this stream. And if you follow that, I'll post a link to this tab on there sometime this evening once I've written it. So yeah, thank you all very much for tuning in. Apologies for the internet connection issues. I'm not totally sure what next week's stream is going to be about, but it will be something more playing along with tunesy, I would have thought. If you've got any great ideas for things you'd like to know about though, either comment on one of my videos or email info@finaleguitar, or leave a comment on the Folk Friend Facebook. info@finaleguitar.co.uk is my email address. So any of the above. Anyway, thank you all very much for tuning in. I'll see you all next week, Friday at 5:30.